Andrew Garfield and Florence Pugh. Lots of drama, comedy, and moments of peace. 'Cause we live in time. There's moments to laugh and cry. Even ones that seem so indistinct. We Live in Time comes to us from A24 and director John Crowley, who did Brooklyn and Boy A. I need to check out Brooklyn because Saoirse Ronan's in. I'll watch just about anything that Saoirse Ronan's in. Like The Outrun, they'll be watching pretty soon after this review posts. And you can check out his IMDb page to see the full list of his work. And this is also written by Nick Payne, not to be confused with Nick Wayne, who's a terrific independent wrestler from Washington State. Washington State represent! Boy, do I sound so goddamn old now, touch trying to say that. But Nick Payne did The Last Letter to Your Lover and also The Sense of Ending and some other projects. And check out what he's done on IMDb. And this features Andrew Garfield, yes, the man, the myth, the legend, that's been in a lot of terrific projects. And also Florence Pugh, who I've loved for a number of years, especially with movies like this. Midsommar really turned me on to just how terrific she is. If you have not seen this, it's a tour de force. She's absolutely incredible. And yet, speaking of Saoirse Ronan, she's in this, and also, well, yeah, Florence Pugh, and quite a few people. Honestly, these are two terrific performances. And Florence Pugh is just goddamn delightful. I absolutely love her. These are only two movies of hers that I own right now, but I will be getting more. Florence Pugh, you slap her on something. I mean, hell, she was in Oppenheimer. Not going to do the intro like I did, but she looked great. Boy, howdy, did she look great. That movie was a mess, though, but she looked great, and she did great. So they are Tobias, played by Andrew, and Almut, played by Florence, and they have a chance encounter that basically changes their lives forever. For, you know, all the right reasons and all the reasons that teach us life lessons. And it's a decade-spanning romance that goes through the trials and tribulations, the pendulums, and all that. Things change. Lives change. There's comedy. There's drama. There's joy. There's... Okay, I said to myself I was going to make it further into this review before I started to crack. Yes, it got through to my apparently not as black heart as I thought. So if you saw the trailer for this movie, A24 seems to have a hit on their hand. I mean, honestly, if you take Andrew Garfield, Florence Pugh, two extremely likable, charismatic as fuck actors, and put them in a drama, you know, romance with some surprising comedy in it. Actually, there's a lot of surprisingly comedic moments, and some in situations that you wouldn't think would actually be treated with a comedic tone, but with the right direction, and with just the fact that some of them are somehow grounded in reality, but so fucking bonkers, you just can't help but laugh. I did see a sneak screen of this, and it was with, I would say, about half full theater, and if you can see this with an engaged audience, it is a lot better. There were tears shed, not just by me, I could tell by other people in the audience. I'm not ashamed to admit that. I don't know what it is. I don't know why movies this year have gotten me to crack. The end of Godzilla -1 got me to crack. But yeah, this, My Old Ass, and Inside Out, The Wild Robot to an extent. There are others. I have watched almost 250 movies this year, so I was really excited to see this. And even though I've been up since about 5 a.m. this morning because I had to work and then had to do some other things, I decided I'm going to watch a special screen, and I am so fucking glad I did, because in addition to the fact you have two charismatic actors, they carry this fucking movie. It's like a more comedic version of Marriage Story to an extent, because you do have Almut, who is an up-and-coming chef that is really, really talented, gets a curveball of life thrown at her, shall we say, and a recent divorcee, Andrew, and they end up having a chance encounter actually in a pretty funny way. And it does bounce back and forth. In fact, I think that might be something that might turn people off a little bit, is the jumping back and forth in the timeline. Some people thought that about Challengers, and Challengers is really fucking terrific, and you check that out, it's out on Amazon. Some didn't like that happened in that movie Touch, that is out on Peacock currently, and that's also very terrific. Dramas with a little bit, romantic dramas with a little bit of comedy, trying to do that stuff where you have a bit of a time jump. And I'm not talking a time jump with a time machine. I'm talking jumping back and forth and everything. What it proves is that every minute counts. And boy, Now, if you see the trailer and you remember the trailer, you probably know what the heck's going on. But just in case you haven't seen it, let's just say that the particular subject, the overriding thing of this, will hit a lot of people in different ways. And if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. If you know what the plot revolves around and what the curveball is, you get it. And I will say that Florence Pugh acts this out beautifully. And I do also want to shout out the little girl that plays their daughter, Grace Delaney. I'm not normally somebody that praises kid actors. And yeah, she's a little kid. She isn't given a bunch to do, but she doesn't feel like a caricature. She just feels like a girl that just is seeing her parents do their thing. Also, Weetabix is like a running gag for like some of the flashback scenes, which I always found funny. And there is also Jade, not Jade, Lee Braithwaite, who I do have to say really pulls off her role well. Even though she isn't given a lot to do, she, is able to basically stand out in any scene she's in. And other than that, there are other characters. There are other characters on Almut's side and other characters on Tobias' side. And they do come together, and it's not a perfect romance because they come from different ideals. They come from different ways of thinking of what they should be able to do with their lives, and there are arguments and there are things, but obviously these two are meant to be together. And also you get to see a little bit of the nudity, and that's not the worst thing in the world, especially when Florence Pugh and Andrew Garfield are involved. I'm not ashamed to say that. But really what it is it's just generally sweet, and god damn it, I'm sorry. I don't mean to crack. But no, this movie did get to me, and it got to me because yeah, okay, it's a simple, familiar story. And maybe the movie was just intentionally hitting on the emotional strings. But it pulled it off. It pulled it off just like my old ass in the sense that that movie shouldn't have gotten to me like it did. And this is just a beautifully told story that, there is a thing about eggs that factors in later. And I'm like, oh, I didn't expect that was going to hit. But Florence, again, another notch just on her terrific acting streak. And Andrew Garfield, really, really good stuff here. It's really good. You need to check it out. I believe it's coming out in theaters in about 10 days, I think. 10, or maybe I think it's coming out in just a couple weeks, something like that. I think it's coming out the same weekend as Smile 2. So I'm excited for that one, but I'm glad I decided to watch this. So I'm going to get into spoilers. There are a few things I just want to talk about, and the overarching story is just really good, but terrific performances, and just a great story with some great comedy and some drama and some stuff that's going to make you fucking bawl. 3, 2, 1, and spoilers. So, the big overriding thing is that Almut is diagnosed with cancer. And she beat it. She diagnosed with cancer, and she beat it once. They had a kid. Then it came back, and she's not sure she wants to go through it again. I know people that have lost others to that. And it's a tough thing to go through. It's a tough thing. I had a grandma that went through cancer that actually died when I was 9, I believe. And I was something to her because actually they used to live like maybe 5 miles from me. Really nice house, really old house. The whole point is that that's kind of something that's told, and then you see this thing where she wants to do the chef competition. Tobias wants to marry her, and those two things are going to interlock on the same dates, basically. And that's something that kind of leads to what you would have thought would have been a blow-off argument. But before that, we see them first getting together, and how they got together was Almut accidentally hit Tobias in the road when he tried to go get a pen. Why was he trying to go get a pen? Because the pen in his hotel room, because he's a recent divorcee and he was trying to sign the papers to finalize it, the pen ran out, the pencil broke, and apparently he couldn't go to the desk and get another pen, so he just went in his bathrobe, not getting dressed, and went across the went to the store. The cashier had a funny reaction and says, "Oh, divorced." He gets the pen, he tries to go get it, and she hits him with her car. And then he's like in a neck brace, and she says, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm Alma," and they have some funny exchanges. And she's like, "I'm the one that hit you." And yeah, if you can't hit your lover, and knock him into your heart, then what can you do? But it's very obvious from the beginning that they have chemistry. But it's not all a bed of roses. Yes, there's obviously the whirlwind romance with the sexual innuendo and innuendo, hey-oh, but it's nice that they don't just immediately jump into that stuff. They actually tell it where it's like he goes to her restaurant and they have an interaction and everything. And yeah, they do obviously end up getting on because there's a romance, but they at least do a little bit of something. They obviously show the chemistry. Obviously, she is a very good chef. And it's all about time. Time, actually, I think, is a word that probably takes up about 40% of the dialogue, if we're being perfectly honest. So if you don't like hearing the word time said repeatedly, this movie may annoy you. It may send you into a nervous tick, 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 tick. But I don't know why I decided to do that right there. But there's also talk of having kids. She's not sure she wanted to. He's kind of thinking he wanted to. But... and this is shortly after they got together. So, these scenes are jumping back and forth. So some people might find the narrative a little bit messy, but stick with it. Don't worry. It's not messy. It just takes a little bit of focus. And he's saying about their ages, not that he's saying that she's old, but that he's worried because he's going to possibly fall in love with her, and he doesn't want them to want different things and stuff like that. And there's a lot of great scenes in this. And then she finds out about her cancer diagnosis, and it's either do a partial, where she could still have kids, and there's a chance it could come back, or do a full hysterectomy, and there's less of a chance of it coming back. And she kind of changed her tune on possibly having kids, like, well, I'm not sure, but you know what, if I have the full one and I want them, what are you going to do? Freeze the eggs and do that. So they do eventually, have a kid. And there's a lot of great stuff where they're trying to have a kid, trying all this different stuff, all this therapy, especially after she beat cancer the first time. But the one thing, the gut punch, is when they find out it's back. And talk of the treatment and shrinking it because it's so big. It's such a big tumor. And just to shrink it so they can do surgery. Then there's more chemo and possibly to beat it, but it would take a full hysterectomy. But they gotta beat it. And then there's a thing we find out in the flashback about, or other flashbacks, about how she used to do figure skating, and then she lost her dad, and she didn't have the spirit anymore. Good God, this movie's sad. But there's some good comedy too, like the part where he gets hit by the car. And then she's going to have the kid, and they're in a gas station, and they're stuck in traffic, so they go to this Tesco, I think is what they call it in the UK, because it's set in the UK. And I think it's the Tesco station. People in the UK, please help me. I've gone blank. But they end up getting snacks, and she's obviously, not doing all that well. But we get this part where she basically is going to have the kid. She's worried that she thought she needed to take a shit. No, she's going to have the kid. So she's got to have the kid basically in the goddamn bathroom. Now, yes, okay, this is fanciful, ridiculous, but you have the two employees there. And the key breaks off, so they end up having to kick the door down. The older lady, she's not old, she's not so old that she remembers the Revolutionary War, but she was one of the, she was a little bit older than Florence Pugh, at least I assume. But she's helping her, guide her through it, and then there's a younger cashier. He holds the phone so Andrew Garfield's Tobias can have the 999, that's their number for emergencies over there, guiding them through that kind of stuff, having the kid, and they have the kid. And what's great is that, yes, it could be considered sappy, but it's nice because it comes out fine, everything's good and whatever on the gas station bathroom. Trust me, I work at a gas station, folks. We clean our bathrooms pretty good. We clean our floors pretty good. I don't know if you necessarily want to have a kid on them. Just saying. I guess in a pinch. But nevertheless, they find that, there's the stuff about the kid. They're trying to maybe talk to the kid about the fact that mommy's sick again. But, the kid, God, was she 5 or 6 maybe? Maybe? I'm genuinely trying to remember. But since this is a decade-long, romance, and we find out about the figure skate and all that and everything, she's doing this competition with Jade. And once again, wants to say the actress Lee playing Jade does a very good job here. And Florence ends up shaving her head because she's going to go through the therapy again, but it's not working. Like the chemo isn't working nearly as much. Part of the reason for that is she hasn't been sticking with it because she's also been doing this competition that requires so much of her attention. She's doing all this balance. Meanwhile, Tobias is trying to do this, get this wedding together. And then they come to an impasse, almost like where he wasn't upset because of the wedding having to be pushed. He was upset that she didn't tell him. But it's just he didn't know how to handle it. And it kind of almost led where I'm like, okay, are they going to break up? Please don't tell me they break up. Don't you dare tell me they'll break up. But ends up, he tosses the stuff out, the invitations, do it another time. She's going to do the competition, but she realizes basically, like, she had said earlier about doing her, trying to do her chemo again. I don't know if I want to do, do I want to have 6 to 9 great months, or do I want to have 12, passive months where it might work, it might not. I don't know if I can go through this again. And with how aggressive it was, who knows if she would have survived. I mean, it's hard to tell. But she ends up basically doing this competition. Jade does help her quite a bit. It seems like things aren't going to go well. It's like this competition where like they're a team and they're supposed to do something. I don't really totally get it. That wasn't fully fleshed out necessarily. But it works out. Ella's watching. She's so happy for her mom because during that scene where it looked like the couple was going to fight, Alma basically says, I don't want to just have it where I didn't, try to achieve something that my daughter can remember me by and stuff like that, so she can maybe look back and realize what this meant. Because earlier she had meant, another funny part was about, well, I've heard that if we, if you get a dog, or we get an animal, it would help with the passing and everything. If an animal passes, then it helps compartmentalize and stuff like that with a human pass. I mean, I don't know. It's a little bit weird like that. It might help with pass. It might help you understand it better, I guess. So he's suggesting we kill a dog. Don't kill a dog. Always make sure you raise your pets right. But when they were first really getting romantic, Alma and Tobias, not the dog. That would be weird. Talking about, the best, you remember the best way to crack an egg? Always on a flat surface, yeah? And they do that, and, romance, all that, and wins the or does well in the competition, apparently. They decide to go figure skating. And they're doing their thing and, doing they're waving at each other. They're on one side. She's on another. Sorry. And then we fade back to the farmhouse that they have. And yeah, she's dead. This is fine. So he's raising his daughter. I didn't think that she died until I saw the dog. So yeah, but he's teaching his daughter, the cooking that her mother did. Do you always remember the best way to crack an egg? Always on a flat surface. There you are. Yeah. I don't know why this got to me like it did. Because, the story, admittedly, is a little simplistic. The narrative can be a little bit messy, I suppose, if you want to break it down into the minutia. Or you could go with it and you realize these are two really, really talented A-list actors that girl playing the kid was really good, and just a lot of great. It isn't whimsical. There's a sad feeling around it. A plus. I'm getting out of here. A plus. Good stuff, A24. Good stuff, John Crowley. Yeah. Sorry, guys, I tried. Anyway. So agree, disagree what I said. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Ritlin. I'll see you soon.